welcome to Off Panel, Sketch.com's creator-centric podcast. I'm David Harper, and with me this week is the writer and co-creator of the Eisner-winning series Chew.
Howdy.
It's John Layman. Thanks for joining me, John.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the big 50th issue just dropped, and I know listeners are going to have questions about it, but that's too bad because we're not going to ask those questions. This discussion is going to be all about writing comics and John's approach to them. So John, let's take it back to the year. What year did Chew launch? Was it 2009?
Yeah, 2009.
Damn, that's crazy. Let's start from the beginning. So for Chew, like, what form does that start from? Like, was it relatively fully formed from when you first started, or was it just you trying to kind of piece together an idea from copious notes?
I'd been pitching it for a super long time.
Yeah.
To the point where it was kind of an industry joke among my friends.
Yeah.
And at one point I knew, because I had kind of gotten out of comics and into video games, but wanted to get back into comics, that I had to make it happen. And I didn't have any work. And basically I had nothing to do, nothing better to do. So I just wrote the damn thing. Yeah. And, when you're not on a schedule, you can kind of, write things at your leisure. Yeah. And that's exactly what I did. What I didn't sort of know from having, in my head for over the four years, because I had a pitch document and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. Got fleshed out. Mm-hmm. And I think I wrote 3 full scripts before I had, met and hired on Rob.
Yeah. No, it's kind of funny. I was actually just reading an article the other day about Matthew Weiner, the guy who did Mad Men.
Oh, uh-huh.
And he was talking about, because I don't know if you know this, but his story was, kind of similar. Like he was not doing anything, and he'd written and researched Mad Men a long time ago, the very first pilot, and he just kept pitching it to anyone who would listen, and somehow it ended up getting in the hands of David Simon, the guy who created The Sopranos. And
no, David Simon is
David Chase.
David Chase.
Yeah, my bad. I mixed up my Davids. Yeah, anyways, it got in the hands of David Chase, and David Chase loved it, and he said, "I'm going to help you make this, but for now, can you write for my show?" And so that's how I got The Sopranos. Anyways, and so yeah, it's kind of similar. It's just like I read this article about how Matthew Weiner was writing or talking about how the key is just to keep writing and just to keep focused on something is going to be worthwhile. And it sounds like you just did that.
Yeah. I mean, I was going to make it happen no matter what. I didn't have high hopes for it. I sort of had my confidence crushed out of me, and from enough rejections that I just thought, I'm going to do this as a way to get other work. I will finance this 5-issue flop, but then show it to editors and get other work.
So how did you get it at Image?
See, that's the weird thing, because I kept pitching it to Vertigo.
Yeah.
Who, basically wouldn't give me the time of day.
Right.
And at one point I knew, well, I'm going to have to do this on my own if I want it done. And that means I'm going to have to finance it. And like I said, at that point I got a job and had some income. Mm-hmm. So I had a budget. And I started putting the word out to friends. Yeah. And usually I got someone who was, like a buddy of a friend who, well, this guy's not really a good artist, but, he's behind on rent, he's got alimony or whatever, and it's like, nah, this guy's not right. And, I really wanted to take my time with this, because I knew I knew the style I wanted. Yeah. Well, I wanted either two things. I wanted something kind of, I guess, not flashy and unassuming, like maybe like a Pia Guerrero, where it would be more story-oriented.
Sure.
And that's not to diminish her, but, Y is very straightforward that way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or, I wanted something a little more fun, because it was so grotesque. I didn't want to have serial killers for readers, and I wanted it to be accessible. So I either wanted it kind of straightforward, or with a tendency to be cartoony. Yeah. And at one point, I had been in comics for 10 years at that point. Yeah. Or more, and I called Eric Stevenson. Because we knew each other well enough that that
was a thing you could do.
Yeah, he's probably a little more harder to reach now that Image has blown up so. But he took my call, and I told him I've got this book I'm developing, Cannibal Cop, bird flu thing. Do you have any artists? And he's like, no, and he basically kind of shook his head and said he didn't matchmake. Mm-hmm. But then he said, you know what? I like the the concept, find an artist, and we'll publish it.
Nice.
So I got in after pitching it over and over to Vertigo. I kind of got in the back door through Image, where they're like, find the artist, and then it was awesome because I didn't have to be bad cop. I hired Rob and said, look, if they don't like you, I'm letting you go.
Right.
And I have a friend who did the opposite. Image said, find the right artist and we'll publish you. And he found an artist, and Image said, nah, he's not for us. And this guy stubbornly stuck to his guns, which, okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
But all his friends were saying, no, this guy's not really that good.
Mm-hmm.
And the book ended up going nowhere and all. So anyways, my point was I was able to tell Rob, hey, if they don't like you, they're firing you, not me.
Right.
But,
yeah. You're making a choice.
Yeah. Here's your chance at bat. You go ahead and swing, but I'm not driving you home after Little League, but Rob, stepped up and hit a home run.
Yeah, well, I mean, you were talking about how you wanted to mix between like the Pia Guerra style or like the fun humorous style, like somewhere one of those two, and it's like Rob's actually kind of a perfect mix of those two things because he's such a good storyteller, but he's also
yeah, but he's goofy as hell. I mean,
he's so goofy, but and I think that helps cut like you were saying, like you don't want serial killers, and he cuts it pretty well.
Oh yeah, for sure. And Chew has gotten goofier I could never pull off the stuff that I'm doing without him, and it's weird because if you read issue 4, it's markedly different. It's weirder and it's funnier.
Yeah, that's
the first issue where I'm actually writing for him.
Right.
Because at that point, I've seen his work. I know what he can do. Because, when you write in a vacuum and then you get an artist who can't emote or can't draw horses or doesn't want to draw action scenes, you start writing, to avoid things that will look terrible.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
And, other than gorgeous women, Rob can draw just about anything.
It's pretty hilarious because like you can kind of feel that, like, even as a person, because I read it monthly. I like buy the comic every single month. I don't have any in the collections. I'm sorry, I'm not a double dipper for you guys.
You're paying my rent. You're paying my water bill.
But I think it's like you look at like issue 49, which came out a month ago, and anyways, and you look at that, and there's like some of the humor that's dropped in there. I don't know if you guys would have dropped before. One thing I'm just gonna say, Ozymandias. I didn't see that, like that was something I really had to dig for, and I was just like, oh my god, that.
Wait, actually, what are we talking about?
The Before Watchmen cover that's in the.
Oh yeah. Okay. Sorry, I was thinking 49. That's 50. Yeah. No,
that is 49.
Yeah, that is 49.
Yeah. So, anyways, no, I was digging through that, and I was like, look, because I was like, I know this dump is going to have some really quality stuff, and I saw that in there, and I just started laughing hysterically. I couldn't believe it was there, and I reached out to Rob, and Rob was like, oh, that's all John.
Yeah, no, he didn't want to take responsibility, and he actually fought me on that. He's like, can we get in trouble? And I'm like, dude, you're putting in like TV shows that millions of people watch. Do you think anyone's going to look at a thumbnail thing, comic in joke?
Yeah. Yeah, so, who's going to get upset in there? Like, I don't even, like, I guess DC could get upset, but I don't think they really care.
No, it's kind of meant in fun, and the we've got Olive wearing a Bitch Planet shirt, which we cleared. Mm-hmm. But on the last page there was a TV, and Rob dropped a TV show in, and of course on the last page we're like rushing to get to the printer, and like, damn it, we should have had him watching iZombie. That would have been hilarious.
That would be great. Okay, so let's get down to like the individual issues though. So when you first crack open an issue, like where does it start from on your end? Like, let's say issue 50. Like, do you lay out a general framework for the issue and build from there, or do you work some other
typically
way?
I write a scene. Yeah. And often I write a scene out of sequence. And in the case of 50, I wrote 50 before I wrote 49. Like a lot of times I write the end of the arc, just like I'll write the end of an issue, and then I'll kind of like fill in the blanks and figure out what I need. Now for 50, Chow ended up playing a bigger role in 49, so when 50 came around, I'm like, Rob, I got to add 2 panels and, give Chow his little moment in 50, which wasn't there in the first draft.
Yeah.
But typically it doesn't require a lot of like rewriting. And in the case that I wrote 27, like wildly out of sequence,
Yeah.
I just knew the story, so I wrote it, and I knew where sort of everyone had to be at that point.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a cheat, because it was basically Tony was in the hospital and I focused on his sister, but it looked like I knew. The future was very vague then.
You look like the most genius plotter that ever existed.
And the funny thing is, now all these people have discovered this in trade. They have no idea that, Chew 27 was printed, a year and a half before 26 or whatever.
Yeah. No, so that's one of the things that, like, when I'm reading the comic, I'm always... it's a lot of times people like think about it as like that funny book that like where the guy eats things and gets visions from them and things like that. But it's so much more complicated and overarching than than it often gets credit for. And
I think the people who don't read it, like I remember going into a comic book store years and years ago and say, "Oh, you got Cerebus?" And they're like, "Oh, is that the funny aardvark with the sword that's in the forest?" I'm like, "Meh, you probably think so." And, that's what probably non-readers think about you.
Yeah, well, that's funny because I remember as a kid, that's what I thought about Cerebus because I only saw it in Wizard Magazine. And I'm pretty sure that's kind of how they always positioned it. How do you plot everything out? Because, like, it sounds like you work from the back and then move into
sort of. I mean, I'm a strong believer in, knowing the end of your story.
Yeah.
So I try to.
Yeah.
I think that gives you something to work towards, and it makes sense when you do it.
Yeah.
So I do that a lot, and the thing with Chew is a lot of times, like, I know the character stuff more than I know the, I guess the story. Like, I'll write the beginning and the ending, which is kind of typically the soap opera stuff.
Sure.
Where the characters are, and where you're moving the chess pieces, and I'll have like 10, 11 pages done, and my buddy will say, "Okay, well, what's the issue about? What's the case?" And I'll have no idea. I just know that from like pages 8 to 16, I have to send Tony and whoever his partner is, on some wacky case, and I keep expecting to be kind of called out as a fraud.
Yeah,
but no one has figured this out.
Well, I mean, it's pretty obvious that you have things pretty figured out, given the fact that you've referenced like a panel from number 60 multiple times.
Yeah, that's true.
Much to the consternation for me, briefly, because when everybody tackled the collector at one point, and like Appleby got cut in half, I was like, "What are you doing, Layman? What's happening here?"
Yeah,
he's supposed to be alive at the end, and then little did I realize he's going to become a centaur.
Yeah, well, it was funny because I never, we never showed him below the waist.
Yeah, exactly. I hadn't even thought about that. And then like when they it was issue 48 where you had another one recently and had Valenzano in it, and they were in their full glory now.
Yeah, yeah. And he's in a spider, so he's gonna he's not necessarily going to be the centaur the whole time. Yeah. He's going to switch animal bodies.
Well, I mean, if you have a lower half that's interchangeable, you might as well go with it, right?
Yeah, right on. Of course.
So, from the beginning, did you kind of have, like, it sounds like you knew where number 60 was going to end.
Oh, yeah. I don't remember this because I drink. But I guess I told Rob, like, the first night we met, when I was, like, kind of pitching him the Chew deal and what the story is, I guess I told him the ending.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Which, at that point, who thought there'd actually be an ending and it would go so far? So I think I was less, secretive because, who cares? This is a book that, won't happen and won't do well.
Yeah, you thought it was going to last 5 issues at the time.
Yeah. So I did, and, it's still heading towards it. And what's going to be funny is when we get to it and people are so pissed and they're like, wait, you've known the ending for that long? Why didn't you come up with something better?
What series really ends in a way that's satisfying to anyone or everyone? No book, no series, nothing. There's nothing that's ever ended where it's satisfied everyone. Maybe Why the Last Man. I don't know.
I don't know about Why the Last Man because I feel like the problem with Why is there was so much buildup for the kind of the explanation.
Oh yeah, that's true.
When you got the science, you're like, yeah. What choice did he have?
Yeah. What answer is going to be satisfying to everyone?
And so what it really has to be, and Why was, and Chew will be, you have to make it more about the characters because you'll never be able to deliver, this amazing thing that the readers kind of have built up for in their head.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's the amazing thing you guys have really built is just the fact that like not to downplay other comics or anything, but there's a lot of comics I read where like afterwards I'm discussing with a friend or something that also reads it, and we're just like having a hard time scratching up more than like two or three characters' names. I know that's terrible, and it probably speaks to our inability to read. But with Chew, you like look down the cast, and everybody is super memorable, and I think that's one of the most impressive things is the fact that like I'm genuinely invested in the future of pretty much everyone in the cast.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we've and the funny thing was when Chew first came out, we had a lot of readers or reviewers dismiss us as, well, what's going to happen by issue 8 when he's eaten every body part, and and the key is that, I mean, I think we did one arc where, I mean, we've probably done multiple arcs at this point where he's only eaten something once or twice.
Yeah.
And it's really about the cast and the relationships.
It seems like a lot of that type of thing, the Cibopath type of thing, is almost off panel for Tony at this point. It's like it's a secondary thing that's feeding. Well,
yeah, at 49 issues, how much more of that do you need to explore?
That's true. It is kind of funny. This is something I wrote down as I was putting together questions. You guys are somehow like one of the highest numbered comics anymore.
I know, isn't that weird?
It's so
like
weird.
We're the old timers.
Yeah, you guys are like the great.
Something wrong with comics when we're the old timers at issue 49.
Yeah, I don't know how that happened, but somehow you guys have I think I counted like you guys are the 5th highest numbered comic in the top 200 in the sales charts.
Yeah, it's just bonkers, and it says something about the market and sort of like kind of the short termness of at least the big two.
Yeah.
But even and I would never do 60 issues again. Readers stay on, but retailers don't. And I think by like issue 50, it's because I'm the same way, and I'm sure everyone's like this. You buy all these stacks of comics and you don't get to them.
Yeah.
And I end up like buying the trade, and I've got all the comics here, and I'm like, well, shit, I didn't even read the floppies. Like, what a waste of money.
Yeah.
And I think smarter people than me get behind and ditch the floppies. I can't do that because I feel like karmically I need to support my friends.
Right.
To justify people supporting me.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't read half of what I buy.
Yeah.
And then I end up friending it to people because, I end up buying the trade.
Yeah, I actually know somebody who would take comics to his office and just leave them at his desk and be like, pick them up, check them out, enjoy.
Yeah, which, that's not the worst thing to do, karmically either.
No, absolutely not. I'm curious, as far as your readership, as it's moved along, do you feel like it's kind of started shifting more towards the trade and omnivore and smorgasbord readers?
That's too hard to say, and I also think that there's almost as many type of readers as there are books.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
especially with digital.
There's digital, there's floppy, there's trades, there's hardcovers, there's the boutique ones who want the smorgasbord,
the Russian edition.
Yeah, and you put it out, and someone wants that type of book, and I was worried about a few years ago putting the hardcover out too close to the soft cover, like I'd be eating into my own market.
Right.
But it's not the case.
Yeah, I think that one thing that's come out over the years with especially digital, but also with those different editions, is that there's a clear delineation between the people who read one versus the other. Almost, it's additive.
Yeah.
So, anyways,
I try in theory, I want you to have to read it monthly because that pays me a bill monthly. And then buy a trade for your bookcase, and so that's where the cat pictures come in and the letters page, and that they're more the monthly people are more like part of the clubhouse.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. That's one of my favorite things over the last probably 5 or 6 years. You guys are. It really started with The Walking Dead, but you guys were one of the books that first picked it up past Kirkman's books. But bringing back the letters column and
I've always as an editor at Wildstorm, when DC made us take away the letters page, I was so pissed. They're like, well, there's message boards, but I still remember every book that I've got, and I still own every book I've got a letter in.
Yeah,
and there's something now someone will come up to me and say, oh, you put a picture of Precious in issue 43, so. I bought copies for my mother-in-law and my neighbor and blah blah blah, and they don't give a damn about comics, but they want to see a picture of Kitty.
Yeah. That's hilarious. Yeah, no, I think that's been it's always fun to see that in there. Actually, you brought up Wildstorm, and I think that's interesting because like you edited some pretty damn big books. I mean, like
Yes, I did.
You edited Planetary,
yeah, Authority, Astro City.
Yeah.
Steampunk, and then some ones that weren't so great.
One of the things I was curious about is like, do you feel like especially working with Warren Ellis in like something like Planetary, where it's so like I don't know, it's episodic, but it's all building towards something. Did that experience help you kind of refine how you approach comics?
Certainly didn't hurt.
Yeah.
I kind of felt like I was like being part of history, and I mean this is when I was growing up, child of the '80s. I read Marvel and DC and superhero and licensed stuff, but somehow I got into Cerebus, probably even before I could understand it.
Yeah.
And in the '80s, there was this wave, this creator-owned wave, where everyone wanted their Cerebus,
mm-hmm.
Which was their self-contained novel that they would own, and that was a big part of Image. Spawn and Eric Larson, all these people were basically saying they wanted their Cerebus, and
yeah.
Jeff Smith, and there were a lot of ones that kind of disappeared, like Maxi Mortal and Hepcats and
mm-hmm.
Stuff. But that was always my goal.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was on Planetary, I felt like all right, well, I'm not doing it for myself, but I'm at least part of something like that, and it's awesome and it's historic.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was really frustrated at Wildstorm, like I wanted to quit very badly.
Mm-hmm.
And the one thing keeping me going was Planetary. Like I don't want to leave until Planetary is over.
Yeah.
But then the stretches between issues got longer and longer, and it's like, do I really want to basically do I want to measure my life against someone else's book, or do I want to do my own?
Did you make it all the way?
No, fuck no. I made it to 15.
Oh, jeez.
And then by the end, it was like a year between issues.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I remember that because I was just like, I really want this series to end, but it's hard to be mad at them because I'm sure that they're fairly busy. But I have that omnibus now, and holy shit, that is such a great book. Anyways,
I mean, my favorite thing was because I really collaborated with John on doing the logos and making each cover unique.
Yeah,
and that's something else with Chew. Like, I really hate the books. I'm not saying I hate Spawn, but I hate the fact that every cover is a pinup, and you can't really tell one issue from the next.
Mm-hmm.
And Chew, every cover is very distinct and applicable to that issue. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and there's a lot of like symmetry between them because like issue 49 with Chow on it, like we've seen a variation on that cover several times.
Oh, not only that, I don't know. Did you just see the PDF or have you gotten 49 yet? Because I don't know if you know this, but issue 37 was a 2-part cover where it was Tony and Olive at the dinner table, but they fit together.
Uh-huh.
And then issue 39 with Amelia at the table.
So is Chow supposed to be on the other side?
Well, no. 2 months later, you can fit 37 and 37 fit together, mm-hmm. but you can also go 37, 39, 37.
Oh, wow.
And then we did the same 10 issues later with 49.
Yeah.
So you can put Chow in between. And so you can line up all 4 covers as like a poster. They all fit seamlessly into one growing dinner table.
Yeah, that's really incredible. I hadn't even realized that. I mean, I knew enough to know that we've seen covers like that before, but I didn't realize that they actually fit together like that.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing is, we try to innovate like those kind of mix and match covers, and I keep thinking that by now we're going to run out of ideas, mm-hmm. and we only have 10 issues left, and I know at least 4 of the covers.
So that you're talking about how all these things fit together, and I'm kind of I'm curious, like how do you manage workflow? Like do you like manage everything yourself, or is Rob kind of the master of his own domain, or how does that work?
Well, I mean, Rob's done when he's done, and he's he's a workhorse, so I don't ride him that hard, because what am I going to do? Fire him?
Yeah.
And, Image will be like, oh, the book's due, this date. It's like, well, here's when Rob's going to be done. And
Right.
it's always close.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily on time, but it's not, it's not Battle Chasers.
Oh, isn't that coming back out?
Who cares?
Yeah. Well, I know that, one thing that I know is pretty important to you is like you're a big fan of lettering, and you letter the book yourself.
Yeah. I'm actually lettering while we talk.
Oh, nice. How does that, like, how do you work that into it? It seems like, because you're the writer and you're the letterer, it seems like that would add, some like potential bottlenecking. Like, have you ever considered like hiring somebody else, or is that just something?
Oh no, it's completely helpful.
Yeah.
And like I think if you can't draw, like it helps guide the page in a way that nothing else can.
Yeah.
Like it really helps you kind of put your vision on there.
Mm-hmm.
And like if I have a sound effect that's really important, if you're a letterer, you're lettering for 10 or 15 bucks a page and you're lettering as fast as you can to pay the rent. Yeah. If it's your book and you've got this, sound effect that has to be awesome, yeah. I'll spend, and I'll letter because it's very relaxing. I'll letter with the TV on, or while I'm doing a podcast, and I can spend an hour on a sound effect.
Yeah,
there's one sound effect in Secret Agent Poyo where like the devil is saying smite Poyo,
yeah,
and it's written in all this kind of old English with all these like layers of flames and gradients and stuff. It must have taken me 3 hours or so just noodling it forever.
Yeah.
But I can't, and no one else would put that kind of devotion or love into lettering.
Well, and I think, it seems like it'd probably really tie you into the story and help you like figure things out as you're moving along. Like, do you ever refine the story or like refine the...
Never. It like, to me, like the letterer and the writer are two separate people.
Yeah.
And like, because some people are like, oh, you can like edit your stuff, or you could just write it. You could do it Marvel style and write it as you letter. And it's like, no, I don't do that. I keep it exact. And, every once in a while I won't say I never do it, but 5% of the time maybe, right. Or less. Yeah. I rarely do it.
Yeah. Yeah, that seems like it's good to have the separate hats. Otherwise, you'd probably fall down a rabbit hole of constantly changing things.
Yeah.
And that would be pretty dark. Now, so you mentioned, it sounds like you're definitely not Marvel style, but I mean, it's really just you, Rob, and Taylor Wells doing, color assist.
I almost never talk to Taylor. I talk to her a couple times a year, telling her, she does great. But that's mostly, and I'll see her at shows and stuff. She's, super nice girl.
Yeah.
But I don't know her very well, and her relationship is kind of with Rob.
Yeah. But so, how do you and Rob work together? Are you full script entirely?
Oh yeah. My scripts are pretty detailed.
Yeah.
Let's pull up Chew 50. Let's see. Chew 50. Well, shoot, I don't know Word. I'm not smart enough with Word to figure out how to do a page count. Damn it. Oh,
that's bottom.
That can't be right.
What's that?
It's counting up my pages. Let's see, but that can't be right. It says it's 19 pages, which absolutely can't be right. Because typically for a 20-page book, I write about 30 pages of script, mm-hmm. and my panel descriptions tend to be kind of long,
yeah.
But also, like, I'm talking to Rob and I'll go off on tangents, and I have a lot of web reference, and I'll be like, well, this is like that scene in Star Wars. Oh God, didn't the prequel suck? Why did Jar Jar do this? Blah blah blah. And I'll go off and tell stories, and in my Marvel books, I always kind of make fun of editors, and I'll go off on Chipotle, and people kind of enjoy the scripts because they're kind of a story into themselves.
Yeah, yeah.
So they're very detailed. But then some pages, like, I know the layout. I'll be like, okay, this is a big panel, widescreen, 3/4 of the page, followed by, 2-tiered, equal size, blah, blah, blah. And then some pages I have no idea. But then I also say, Rob knows if you got a better idea, feel free to veto me for whatever. I'm just describing what's in my head, and but I'm a firm believer in keeping the artist creatively happy, and you don't want to you don't want to shackle them with oh, you must do it this way.
Yeah, don't put them in a box. Then it seems like you guys have worked out a pretty nice process, and
Rob's worked out a routine now. I mean, I'm on AIM all day, and he pops on a couple times a day and checks in, unless he's in like a real workhorse mode, or he's traveling or I'm traveling. But he spends like a week thumbnailing, and then like another week, maybe week and a half, doing tight pencils.
Yeah.
And we're at the stage now where he's inking, and like maybe every other day he'll dump 3 pages on me.
Mm-hmm.
And I will letter it as he as he gives it to me.
Yeah.
So I've got plenty of time to like proofread and kind of go over it, and it really let it sink in, because typical letterers, working for the big two, they get a whole thing dumped on them and then say, we need it ASAP.
Right.
And it's much more, since I'm basically lettering for free, it's much better to do just a few pages a day, almost like a kind of a Zen warm up.
Yeah.
But then, so by the time Rob moves to coloring, I've got the whole thing lettered. And then, he colors, spends another week coloring, and, give me like 4 pages a day. And I will literally paste it up, as he sends me a page.
Mm-hmm.
And then, when I'm about, books are usually done on a Friday. Like Tuesday, I'll have my wife and David Brothers proofread it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll have her proofread it again, at the end. Because I'm the king of typos and can't see it. But like, I'll have the letters page, like by around Thursday, I'll have like all the cover, the back cover, letters page, all that other stuff done and uploaded. And Drew's our production guy at Image. I'll be like, all right, Drew, last few pages are coming in, Friday at 2. And, I'll be, like I said, like I'll be pasting up as he turns in pages.
Mm-hmm.
So he'll turn in page 20. Boom. I can paste things up pretty fast now at this point. And, he turns in a page, and literally I have the last page up and the book ready to Image 10 minutes later.
Yeah. So
the second Rob is done, it's more or less to Image. And because we give them final files, all they do is put it into a doc and add the legal indicia and like the TM and the UPC.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not a ton of work for them. So, typically, files are due a week beforehand, because they've got to put things together and paste things up. But because we do all that, Rob will turn something in. I'll turn it around super fast. Drew will turn it around super fast. And sometimes it'll be to the printer and approved within a couple hours.
Wow.
So like that last day is just stress.
Yeah.
My wife's like, oh, time to go pick up the kid from school. I was like, you got to do it. Drew's gone, getting put to bed.
Yeah.
And, then I'm just all, frazzled and stuff. And then the amazing part is, we do that on Friday, and a week or so, like basically 7 to 9 days later, you've got the issue on your doorstep.
Yeah. That is unbelievable. I actually had no idea it was that fast.
I don't think it is for most comics.
Well, and that's one thing I was going to say, because I've talked to Rob and I've talked to a lot of artists, and one of the things that always really impressed me about Rob is he's got this process down. And it sounds like you guys have just, it sounds like, over the years, you guys have really refined your process to really figure out how to do everything, incredibly efficiently.
I wouldn't argue with that. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you feel like, since the beginning it's changed a little bit, but has your process changed significantly since the start working with Rob and everything?
Well, I mean, I was a lot more nervous at first.
Yeah.
I mean, it would take me a lot longer to paste up a page, and I double check, and I was really worried. And now, I'm not.
Yeah.
Now, like I said, I bang it out, we upload it. I'm a lot more confident. Typos, my wife generally catches everything. Maybe 2 typos get through every, I would say 1 typo every 10 issues, not counting the letters page.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't necessarily care about the letters page.
Right.
If there's a typo in the letters page, like David Brothers used to come back and correct people's letters. That's the last thing I care about. If you don't punctuate correctly in your letter, boy, I'm barely my own proofreader, let alone yours.
Yeah.
And really, to me, the only kind of permanent record is the book.
Right.
So who cares if there's a typo on the letters page?
Yeah. Yeah. No, it that is hilarious. So one thing I'm curious about is Poyo. He's been a breakout from the beginning. Obviously, he's been really popular. But did you always know where he was going to end up? And by that, I mean in a recipe in a quick.
No,
dish?
Poyo is like a lot of things were planned in Chew.
Yeah.
And Poyo is one of those, like, the one character that sort of like wasn't.
Yeah.
He was introduced as a MacGuffin.
Yeah.
And I claimed he was like the most badass rooster, and I brought him back in 12. And what happened was I had him like in 12 I had him pluck someone's eye out.
Right.
And then after the fact, when Rob was drawing it, I'm like, you know what? It would have been so much funnier if he ripped someone's heart out. And then I'm like, I got to bring him back. And I brought him back for 18. And 18 was like I typically know the beginning of an arc and the end of the arc.
Yeah.
Which is why when you look at like issues like with a 3 or an 8 at the end, the middle of the arc,
yeah,
those tend to be the most kind of bug fuck insane because I don't know what I'm doing, and those tend to like those are the ones where like I'm the most ungrounded,
right?
And so issue 18 was this issue with Poyo and like a USDA suicide mission, and it was just nuts, and people bought it, and that's when they're like, you know what, our audience is basically going to buy anything at this point, so we can go nuts with Poyo.
Yeah.
We can have. We can have as much fun with Poyo as we want. And so we started to, which is, how, Secret Agent Poyo and Poyo, sort of exists in its own reality. Like there are rules to Chew where, I wouldn't send, before issue, like supernatural stuff wouldn't happen in Chew.
Right.
But, to have Poyo like show up and become the king of hell.
Oh god, that was amazing.
Works because he's Poyo. He's fighting, Supercorn and Ping Thulu and all this shit that wouldn't actually get through the door in actual Chew.
Yeah. Well, and you're also trying to escalate his badassery because that became a plot point, which I thought was actually it's nice to see flexibility in there because it's like. Was it just you enjoyed writing him, or was any part of it the fact that like fans were responding so strongly to him?
A little both. I mean, it was fun to be free, but I won't deny that it's awesome to have a character that connects with Chew, and I mean connects with you. And the funny thing is, like, everyone's kind of in on the joke. It's just a chicken. At the end of the day, with people like kind of like shaking their fist and being like, Poyo! And it was just like something that everyone could go along with and, kind of have a good time with.
I have to say, one of my favorite moments in the entire series was, it was the issue where everyone took on the Collector, and you guys had the reversal of Poyo with the squirrel with the cybernetic eye.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my god, that killed me. That was so amazing. But I mean, and that's great because you guys did so much work with Poyo, you guys could reverse those expectations and just kill with it.
Yeah. I mean, that's been a lot of like Chew has a lot of kind of repeat imagery at this point.
Yeah.
Where we we're even kind of referencing our own covers and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We're doing homages to ourselves, and like the bed page, where there's someone in bed and it's the same image, and as much as I hate kind of Star Wars prequels and all that sort of stuff, George Lucas said something about having this kind of repeat imagery motif, and he did not succeed, but I think we took that and we're succeeding.
Yeah. No, I mean, it works really well because I don't know. I mean, it's just incredible seeing you guys build things back in. And I'm a big believer in a lot of humor being funnier, like when you bring it back like that.
Yeah.
And that type of stuff. Oh my God. That, like I said, that just completely killed me. one character. Oh, this is gonna be the one name that I'm gonna forget. Oh wait, Voorhees.
Yeah, no one can remember Voorhees.
I think that's kind of by design, isn't it?
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah. Anyways, like I've always got the impression that Rob loves him. It is like it just seems like he has a lot of like that one. The fact that his children look exactly like him is the funniest thing to me.
Well, that was my gag, and I told him to let him have a really hot wife and not these like lookalike kids. And he just draws them, picking his nose, and in 49 we because we kind of hobble him and we refer to him as the crippled retarded guy.
Yeah,
and there's not a lot of personality to him.
Yeah, but it's pretty amazing.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that and let's see, I don't think we ever reveal his name, which is Herbert, herbivore.
Yeah.
Except in the Chew card game, and like Pena is Holly Pena, which I'm not sure that we put that in the book.
You did. I'm pretty sure you did.
Okay. Yeah, some of these like names were just created for my amusement.
Yeah. No. With Voorhees, it's hilarious that his name's Herbert because it's like exactly as not badass as Jason Voorhees sounds.
Yeah.
But I just that character cracks me up. But I think it's just really funny seeing like all the depth you guys put into it because I'm always curious, like with characters like that, do you think is he more than just like this guy who picks his nose and has a hot wife and does has that specific power, or like do you actually like kind of build up a character profile for him?
Some I do, some I don't. He sort of gets another moment in 51 that humanizes him further. He's still always kind of a joke character, which a lot of them are. But you do like to give these guys, moments.
Yeah.
Appleby, is such this horrible person, and then you got this point when his hands cut off and he's reaching towards Colby, and Colby's like, Mikey, and you realize that there's
actual feeling,
a whole part of him that you don't know.
Yeah. So, did you watch Parks and Recreation?
No, I never did.
Oh, okay. Well, there's a character in it that like really reminds me of Voorhees. Like everyone always forgets his name. He's just like this bumbling idiot, and he actually is pretty good at his job, but like nobody wants to pay attention to that. And he also has a super hot wife, and it's funny. He really reminds me of him. Anyways, well, okay. So obviously, you're not only doing Chew, and you like semi-recently wrapped up arc on Cyclops.
Yeah.
And I'm curious as to how different the experience is for you writing an issue of Cyclops versus writing an issue of Chew.
Well, I mean,
if at all,
you want to do your best.
Yeah.
But and here you're doing something to sort of like the first person you want to you always want to like actually the first person you want to please is yourself.
Yeah.
But the second person is the editor. Otherwise, you got to rewrite it. And the third one is the fans. The difference here is, with Chew, you don't have an editor. You're pleasing yourself and the fans. And to please the editor, you have to sort of stay true to the tone, true to the character. I learned that very early on, though. I mean, if you take a licensed gig, you have to, respect the characters.
Yeah.
Which I have done most of my career. I think there was a Thundercats mini where I kind of pissed on the characters, and in retrospect, that wasn't. I would never do that again.
Right.
But you really have to just kind of respect the characters and find the character.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
No, it totally does.
And so yeah, I mean it's different. It's satisfying in a different way. I mean, same with Batman. It's cool that you're playing with these toys that you've loved forever. But I think some of the people, when you read about these like big fallouts between DC and Marvel, it's people who kind of forget that it's not their characters and they take it too seriously.
Yeah. And no, so I work in an advertising agency, and not to like make everyone seem like production artists, but like we have art directors in my agency, and a lot of times the art directors get burned out because they think that they're going to be doing these big creative things, and it's really a lot of it ends up being kind of like production artists work on logos and refining small things and things like that. And it seems like, that's one of the big differences between doing something like Chew and Cyclops is like, instead of, being able to, go completely buck wild and create cybernetic chicken characters and stuff like that, you have to exist within the realm and do your best job from there. And it's like, I think some people, don't necessarily have the mentality to handle that. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but
the flip side to that is you can just write a comic book. Whereas with Chew, I have to market it. I have to produce it. As sort of the owner of Chew, there's so much of my day that's kind of bullshit that has nothing to do with Chew.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I mean that has nothing to do with, the writing or the creative process.
Like doing podcasts with me. That's what you're saying, John.
Exactly.
God damn it. You're ruining everything. No, that's one of the things that always amazes me, because it's like, for a creator-owned book, it's like just with the marketing and responding to emails and, interview questions, things like that. It just seems like that type of stuff has got to, like, people don't think about it, but it just eats up so much of your day.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, at least one day out of 5, and probably more for me because I'm lazy, is, it has nothing to do with writing, or at least several hours of the day.
Yeah.
And I tend to be, when I am writing, my most focused in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
And then, then you spend the afternoon, kind of doing, phone calls and bullshit and, what I call bookkeeping, even if it's not, I guess.
Oh, I totally know what you mean.
Word.
Yeah. So this is gonna be the last question for you.
We got 15 or 20 more minutes if you want it.
Oh, well, damn! I didn't prepare for that. We'll see where it goes. Who knows?
Okay. Sure.
So this is kind of crazy. It seems like it should be here, but because it's been 6 years, but at the same time, the end is just 10 issues away, and like you guys have a special too, right?
We'll have one. Well, I guess I can announce this now. We will do Demon Chicken Pollo.
Ooh, is this about him running hell?
Probably more like him breaking out of hell for some reason to stop some threat. But the funny thing is, people were so mad about Pollo dying, and that's the one character again who kind of exists outside of everything.
Yeah,
where it's like, don't really be too mad about Pollo dying.
Yeah, but I mean, like we were talking about it earlier, and it's like that type of thing, like him, taking over hell and like all the demons. I love that moment when all the demons and like Satan ran away from him, because it was like, oh shit, game over.
Yeah.
That all works in service to establishing, the importance of Tony eating him.
Yeah, true.
And it's pretty damn ingenious in that way. And I can't complain about any more Pollo. Pollo is amazing.
But basically, we've got 11 issues left.
Yeah. But do you, as you're nearing the end, do you feel pressure?
Oh fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Because and Rob more than me. Rob's like, well, have you figured this out? I'm like, no. And he's like, Rob, okay. I had a cat named Bumblebuzz who, when her food dish would get empty or start getting near empty, she'd start getting very nervous and anxious.
Yeah.
And I'm sensing Rob is getting to be a lot like Bumblebuzz now.
Yeah.
And there are a couple crucial things that I have not figured out.
Mm-hmm.
One character who has to die, and I'm not. I've had all this time to figure out how, and I haven't completely figured it out.
Yeah.
But I also know that when the time comes, it's the death more important than than how.
Right.
And I'm more worried about that than I am the actual last issue, because the last issue is so clearly formed in my head.
Right. Yeah, that it makes sense given the everything you said, because you kind of have the endings figured out. It's just working back to figure out how you get there. And
some specifics.
I have to imagine, given the fact that it has been kind of accelerating in insanity at times. I wonder if that the next 3 issue and the next 8 issue are just gonna be batshit crazy.
Well, no.
No.
Well, see, here's the thing. No, I think it's going to take a step back and then build.
Mm-hmm.
Oh fuck! This is in the solicitation. So basically, after 50, there's a time jump.
Oh, I'm the worst comic fan ever. I don't read solicits for the most part.
It hasn't been solicited, but by the time this interview comes out, it will have.
Oh,
So you're getting both an exclusive and something that you would know by the time this airs. But yeah, so in some ways, 50 is not the ending, but it's the end of one. There's like the bird flu, the alien stuff, and the the vampire stuff. The collector stuff, and 50 is like kind of the end of the personal story. It's the climax of Tony versus the collector.
Yeah, his arc.
And then we start dealing with these other issues, and so it's going to be kind of disconcerting just from the fact that we jump ahead 2 years, and where is everybody since then?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it makes sense given the fact that like everyone looks much older in like the panels we've seen from issue number 60. I always kind of assumed that there'd be a time jump. I just didn't really know exactly how the mechanics of it would work, which would make me basically Nostradamus if I did. Do you read Fables, or have you read Fables?
No, okay. I haven't.
So one of the interesting things about that series is issues 1 through 75 were all effectively the main story. It was about like the Fables versus the adversary, and like trying to take their homelands back. And I think it was 75. I could be mixing that up. Anyways, and after that, for like a legit 75 issues, and not to downplay the series, because Once Upon a Time was one of my favorite series ever, and has since kind of not been as much. It's kind of had an issue figuring out where it was going after it got that initial story done, and like does the idea of, I mean, it seems like where you're going, but like the fact that it's all post plot, because comics tend to be plot oriented, does that kind of drive any of your anxiety, like the last 10 issues being the more personal wrapping up, saying goodbye type stuff?
Well, I mean, that's going to be the emotional beats, but then the people who are like interested in kind of the conspiracy, the bird flu, the fire writing, like
the other planet.
I mean, it's not going to be aimless in that I don't have stuff to deal with.
Sure.
It's just sort of this whole thing has kind of been leading to Tony avenging his sister,
right?
And then things kind of move on after that. You still got the egg cult and the the egg terrorists, and basically, I mean, there's still a lot of loose ends,
right?
And I've got 10 issues to deal with that, and people are going to be pissed that I don't move into it fast enough.
Yeah, well, yeah, you can't please everyone. It's like, that's like I said earlier, I always feel bad for people who are like finishing stories like that. Not that it's it's good that you've gotten to the point where everyone's so invested that they're actually going to like feel anger, I guess.
Well, I've also complained about this thing where they say, oh, the story's not moving fast enough, and it's like, well, we got 60 issues, and if you want the story to move faster, well, I can do it in 55 issues, but you're going to lose the book faster, and you're going to say goodbye to the characters faster. So, like issue 36, where it's kind of a flashback to Tony the sister dealing with the younger sister.
Yeah, I love that issue.
Had nothing really to do with anything except it was. I mean, that's my favorite issue.
Yeah,
that is one of my full character bit, and that. At the end of the day, that's kind of at least half of what you're here for. So enjoy it.
Yeah, I mean that issue has one of my single favorite moments from the entire series. It was the moment where God, I don't remember the sister's name, but when Tony was looking out the window and she was walking away, and she knew it was gonna be the last time she ever saw her.
Oh yeah. Sage.
Yeah, and that was just, it was heartbreaking. I mean, it like you said, like the goodbyes are going to be pretty hard, and like, and even just something like that, something that's Tony the sister was an important part of the series, but she was never, I guess, part of like the core 3 or whatever. I guess she was the lead character for a bit, but at the same time, it's like saying goodbye to Tony and saying goodbye to Amelia and saying goodbye to like Colby and stuff like that. That's going to be it's going to be interesting.
Well, I do one of these things in 49 where I place Chekhov's gun out there.
Oh,
and basically I tell you something that's going to happen, and then you and it's a horrible thing, and then you wait to see the shoe drop.
Yeah. So you've set it up, and now we're going to go. All right. Another reference. Did you watch Arrested Development?
I haven't seen the Netflix.
Oh, I haven't watched that either. But
yeah.
like earlier in the series, they set up so many times that Buster's gonna have his hand eaten off by a seal.
Oh
And,
yeah, yeah.
and you never realize that. But it's just like you go back and watch it, you're like, holy shit, they were making jokes about that in the first season. And
Well, I really compare it to like Hannibal season 2, where you like start with that giant fight, and there's this. Have you watched Hannibal?
I haven't. No.
Oh,
You know,
you would not believe how good a network TV show can be.
I'm a monster. I'm like, seriously, like with something like Hannibal, I was so, I know, and I know this is terrible and it goes against everything about creator-owned comics and things that myself preach, but I didn't watch Hannibal because I was convinced that it was going to get canceled. And like, I thought it was going to get canceled after like 5 episodes.
Well, now's your chance, but basically, the season 2 starts out with this bloody fight between Lawrence Fishburne and Hannibal.
Yeah,
and then they flash back, and the entire season, you know that this thing's going to happen.
Yeah,
and it adds this tenseness, and I like jumping around, because I know the story. Maybe I'm not completely doing like improv. I know where things end up. It's easy for me to like show these things.
Yeah.
And I've said on Twitter, I'm half serious. If you want a good jumping off point with Chew and you want like a happy ending, read to the second to last page of 50 and then just stop reading Chew. Just stop.
Oh God. You're a cruel man, John Layman. You're a cruel man. I'm very excited to see how it ends. I'm very excited to see how you wrap everything up. And I have no doubt it will be very good, even though I'll probably be writing angry letters to you the entire time.
Yeah, it's not quite a Sopranos ending. People will be like, wait, why did you end there? What happened next? And my only answer is going to be like, it's pretty obvious what happens next. But people will be disappointed that I choose to end where I choose to end it.
The one thing that I've noticed about that the panels we've seen for number 60 is everyone's wearing black suits, if I remember correctly.
I'm not sure about that.
Oh, they're not?
I don't know.
Okay, well, never mind. I had a running theory that they're at a funeral, but maybe not.
Maybe not.
Anyways,
no, I'll tell you that. No, they're not.
Okay, good. Well, anyways, I'm gonna.
But you say good like no one's gonna die. They might as well be at a funeral for all the people that'll be dropping.
Just because they're not at a funeral doesn't mean they won't be at some point. But
yes.
But anyways, well, I'm gonna thank you so much for jumping on and chatting with me, and I'm really excited to see how everything wraps up. And we're definitely gonna have to chat as we get closer.
Oh yeah, anytime, man, anytime.